Hello again in this installment of Spiritual Wisdom. Now, on today's installment, I'm going to be talking about not caring about what other people think. And this is part of loving yourself. So, if you're new to my channel, my name is Nicholas, and on my channel I talk about witchcraft, Wicca, paganism, and all manner of spiritual topics. And if you've been here before, welcome back. So, most of us have been bullied at one time in our lives, and some of us even get a hard time as adults. Now, I get bullied when I was young, not physically, but verbally, and sometimes that can be the worst because when I was younger, people would call me names, all types of horrible things because I went to a special school, because I was different. And if you're not in with the Joneses, now it's never sensible or wise to be in with the Joneses, but if you're not in a gang or a group, because you're not one of them, and these people, they, because you're not one of them, they do mistreat you. And I always say to people, if you get bullied for, let's say, your beliefs are different, meaning you believe in magic or witchcraft or something of that nature, or your religion's outside of the norm, or you're a very good artist and people. Now, if you make jewellery or you're a good painter, and people say, "Oh, I could buy that. What you make, I could buy it up the cheap and buy it up the street for cheaper." That person's talking a lot of rubbish, absolute rubbish. This is a clear sign that person's jealous of you. They see what you're doing well and successful in your life, and they want to bring you down, because people that bully you, they're suffering. That doesn't justify what they're doing, but they're not right in the head. They've got some mental disturbance, or they're simply not, so they're not right in the head, or they hate themselves. And when people hate themselves, this can manifest itself in three ways. The individual can just harm themselves, and that's it, because that person could be a nice person, but they just harm themselves. And self-hate can start for many reasons. Sometimes people who hurt themselves, they take that anger, that pain, that frustration out in other people, because for a wee while, because they're disturbed in the head, it makes them feel better. Get a really itchy nose. And then level 3 is some people, because they're in that much pain, they hurt themselves and others, and they become a danger to themselves and others. But when you get verbally, now it's not nice to be verbally or physically bullied. Now, if someone was to physically attack, I would defend myself and I encourage other people to do the same. But when mental abuse can be more powerful than the physical, because people could say you're ugly, or you're worthless, or this or that about you. But the reason why what they say has such a big effect on you is you have those feelings about yourself, and this person's just bringing those negative self-conscious thoughts to the surface. And it's amazing what bullies and negative people, bullies essentially are people that are suffering, be that because they're taking out their frustrations and pain out on others, or they're mentally suffering. But people who suffer can sense other people's suffering, but they turn people's pain and suffering on others. And the younger me would get so angry, so defensive when people were calling me names or giving me a hard time. Now, the new me, if people were to call me names, I wouldn't care, because that's just their perception of me. They don't live with me, they don't know me personally. And why allow somebody who barely knows you to upset you? Why? And it takes time. Some people, unfortunately, I think of my auntie. I love my auntie very much, who's still a part of my life, a big part. She had a thirst for knowledge, she loved history. She was physically disabled, so she wasn't born like most people, but she's still a beautiful, wonderful person. But she went to college, and her mental illness and her being physically disabled made it quite difficult for her. Because of her mental illness, there'd be some people that didn't think about my auntie, but would just be doing their coursework, getting on with their work, but she would be thinking in her mind that people were looking at her or thinking about her even when they weren't. So it's hard to study or go to college or uni when you've got a mental illness, and it just shows people like this need a level of support. And then there would have been people who were cruel, who are nasty, who should have known better because she was physically disabled. There'd be people who did give her dirty looks, weird looks, which made it quite hard for her. And this problem with the world is broken people, unfortunately, people who are broken break other people down. So people who are bullies, they could see, and I always say, if you're being bullied, it's because you're different. And remember, being different is got nothing to be ashamed of. We're all different. But there's two people in the world. People who can mask the fact they're different. People who keep up with the Joneses, which are fools. Keeping up with the Joneses and pretending to be something you're not is just foolish. Then there's wise people that dare to be different, dare to be themselves, and those are wise people. Always be yourself. You were born different to make a difference on this planet. And if everyone was the same, it'd be a boring world. Just remember yourself. Sometimes if you're doing painting, jewellery, and people are making a fool of your jewellery or painting, that's a sign that you're a very good artist or a very good painter. Because there's honest criticism where you could say no, be honest with somebody. Now me, I would always be honest. If I didn't like your jewellery or painting or whatever it may be, I would say to your face, I don't think it's any good. And I would be gentle about it. Be honest, be gentle. But people who don't give honest criticism, they criticise your artwork or your projects, but in a very negative light. That is what they do. They do it in a very negative light. They do it in a very negative fashion. That is what they do, a very negative fashion. And to me, if people are bullying you for what you love doing, you're doing something right. Remember that. And number 3, always remember that somebody who is bullying you, calling you names, they're wasting their life and they're wasting their time. Because people that are happy with their lives, who love themselves, are in a good place mentally, emotionally, physically, they do not, people who are in a good place mentally, physically and emotionally, they do not waste their time hurting others or bullying people. And it takes time. It's part of loving yourself and realising that the only opinion about you that matters is your own opinion. And everyone on the planet is good, worthy. We have good and dark within us, but we're all worthy. We're all good enough. And we are all deserving of love. But there are wise people who follow the path of self-love, and then there are the foolish people who follow the path of self-hatred. And people who bully you, give you a hard time, they're not worth listening to or giving the time of day. And in time you will realise that. And it's a process and a journey. However, until the next instalment of Spiritual Wisdom, may meet, may part, and meet again. Blessed be, and forgive the noises around me. But always remember, the most important thing in each video is the message. And the message of this video is do not care what other people think. And it will take you time to work on that and learn not to care about other people's negative perceptions of you. Blessed be. Until next time.